You're making more money than your parents ever dreamed of, yet you're more broke than they were at your age. That's not an insult. It's a mathematical fact I've watched destroy thousands of people who should be wealthy by now. Your salary doubled in the last decade? Congratulations. Your lifestyle tripled. You got that promotion, bought the nicer car, moved to the better neighborhood, and somehow you still can't breathe financially. Here's what nobody tells you. Income is a drug, and you're addicted to the high while missing the only number that actually matters. The size of your paycheck means absolutely nothing. Zero. What matters is what you keep, what you build, and whether your money works harder than you do. I need you to understand something that will probably make you angry. Your obsession with earning more is precisely why you're not building wealth. You think the problem is income. It's not. I've seen people making $40,000 a year retire as millionaires, and I've watched people earning $300,000 a year declare bankruptcy. The difference wasn't their salary, it was what they did with every single dollar. You're playing a game where you chase a bigger number on your paycheck while that money evaporates the moment it hits your account. New job, new car payment, bonus check, upgrade the vacation, raise, bigger apartment. You're on a treadmill running faster and faster, and you will never, ever catch wealth this way because you're confusing cash flow with capital. Cash flow is what passes through your hands. Capital is what you own that produces more cash flow. One makes you feel rich for a weekend. The other makes you actually free for a lifetime. Right now, you're renting your lifestyle with your income, and the landlord is your own ignorance about how money actually works. Let me show you the trap in numbers you can't argue with. You make $60,000 a year. After taxes, you're taking home maybe $45,000. That's $3,750 a month. Rent is $1,500. Car payment is $450. Insurance, gas, phone, subscriptions, groceries, eating out. Suddenly you're at $30,500 spent, and you haven't even lived yet. You save $250 that month, and you feel responsible. You feel like you're doing the right thing. But here's what you're missing. That entire $60,000 passed through your life, and you captured 4% of it. 4%. Where did the other $57,000 go? It went to making other people wealthy. Your landlord is building equity. The car company is profitable. Netflix is thriving. Meanwhile, you're celebrating saving $3,000 a year while watching your friends on Instagram vacation in Bali, and you're wondering why you feel poor despite having a good job. This is the income illusion, the belief that earning more will solve a spending problem, that your next raise will finally be enough, that you're just one promotion away from financial comfort. You're not. You're one behavior change away. You're one asset purchase away. You're one decision away from stepping off the treadmill and building something that outlasts your working years. But first, you have to stop worshiping income and start worshiping ownership. You have to stop asking how much do they pay and start asking how much can I keep and what will I buy with it that pays me back. That shift, that one single shift in how you think about money separates people who work until they die from people who work until they choose to stop. Stop chasing income. Start building assets that pay you. Section 2, what an asset. Actually, you don't know what an asset is. You think you do, but you don't, and that ignorance is costing you everything. You think your car is an asset. It's not. You think your clothes are assets. They're not. You think that 65-inch television you financed is an asset. It's absolutely not. An asset is something that puts money in your pocket without you having to show up and trade your time for it. That's it. That's the only definition that matters. If it's not generating cash flow, if it's not appreciating in value, if it's not working for you while you sleep, it's not an asset. It's either a liability or it's stuff. And stuff is just slow-motion trash that makes you feel accomplished while destroying your future. Let me be brutally clear about this. Your car loses value the second you drive it off the lot. That's a liability. Your furniture depreciates to garage sale prices within 5 years. That's stuff. your designer handbag, your gaming setup, your kitchen renovation, all stuff pretending to be investments in your quality of life while actually being investments in your perpetual financial servitude. Real assets are boring. They're so boring that most people ignore them completely in favor of things that feel good right now. A share of dividend-paying stock is an asset. It pays you every quarter whether you wake up or not. A rental property that generates more income than it costs is an asset. The tenant pays your mortgage while you build equity. An index fund is an asset. It grows with the economy without you touching it. A business that runs without your constant presence is an asset. It generates profit while you're at the beach. These things don't impress anyone at a party. Nobody asks to take a picture with your Vanguard account statement. Nobody comments goals under your spreadsheet showing your dividend reinvestment. But here's what happens. In 10 years, while everyone else is still posting their leased luxury cars and rented vacation homes, you'll be posting nothing because you'll be quietly wealthy and you won't need the validation anymore. You'll own things that pay you. They'll own things that cost them. I've watched this pattern for decades. Someone gets their first real paycheck and immediately thinks, what can I buy to show I've made it? The watch, the car upgrade, the apartment in the trendy neighborhood. They're buying symbols of wealth instead of actual wealth, and symbols are expensive to maintain. That watch doesn't generate income. It generates compliments and repair bills. That car doesn't appreciate. It depreciates 20% the first year and 10% every year after. That apartment in the trendy neighborhood doesn't build equity for you. It builds equity for your landlord while you pay premium rent for the privilege of an address. You're choosing the appearance of success over the reality of freedom, and that choice repeated over years is why you'll work decades longer than you need to. Assets are what separate people who look rich from people who are rich. Choose wisely. Stop chasing income. Start building assets that pay you. Section 3, the compound interest miracle you're ignoring. Einstein allegedly called compound interest the eighth wonder of the world, and you're ignoring it like it's a telemarketer's phone call. You're ignoring the only mathematical certainty that can make you wealthy without requiring genius, luck, or inheritance. Here's what compound interest actually means. Money makes money, and then that money makes more money, and then all of that money makes even more money, and this cycle continues until small amounts become absurd amounts given enough time. But time is the ingredient you're wasting. Every year you delay is a year you can never recover, and the cost of that delay is exponentially more expensive than you realize. Let me give you numbers that should terrify you. If you invest $5,000 a year starting at age 20 to 5, earning an average 8% return, you'll have over $900,000 by age 65. That's $200,000 of your money turning into $900,000. If you wait until 35 to start, investing that same $5,000 per year, you'll end up with about $400,000. You lost $500,000 by waiting 10 years. 10 years, that's the cost of delay, and you're paying it right now while convincing yourself you'll start investing when you make more money. You won't. When you make more money, you'll spend more money, because that's what everyone does. Lifestyle inflation is the silent wealth killer that attacks the moment you get comfortable. You finally start making $70,000 instead of $50,000, and suddenly you deserve a nicer place, better dinners out, a newer car. That extra $20,000 vanishes into an upgraded lifestyle that doesn't make you happier but does make you broker. Meanwhile, compound interest is sitting there, waiting, ready to multiply every dollar you give it, and you are giving it nothing because you're too busy buying comfort today instead of buying freedom tomorrow. The math doesn't care about your excuses. The math doesn't care that rent is expensive, or that you have student loans, or that you want to enjoy your life now. The math just compounds, indifferent to your participation, and every day you're not participating is a day you're choosing to work longer. Here's what makes this truly painful compound interest works both ways. It builds wealth when you invest, but it also builds debt when you borrow. That credit card balance at 22% interest, it's compounding against you every single month. You owe $5,000 and you're paying the minimum payment, congratulating yourself for being responsible. Meanwhile, that debt is doubling every few years while you sleep. You're experiencing the eighth wonder of the world in reverse. Your money is making the credit card company wealthy while you stay poor. This is why wealthy people obsess over compound interest and poor people ignore it. The wealthy understand that time plus consistency plus patience equals inevitability. You don't need to hit home runs. You just need to keep showing up with money to invest, and compound interest will do the heavy lifting. But you have to start, not next year, not when you get that raise, today, right now, because every day you wait costs you exponentially more than the day before. Debt is being sold to you as a tool, as leverage, as a way to build credit and invest in yourself, and you're buying this lie with money you don't have while signing away years of your future freedom. Listen carefully, debt is not a tool for most people, it's a trap. It's a cage you walk into voluntarily because someone convinced you that everyone does it, that it's normal, that you need it to participate in modern life. You don't. What you need is to stop confusing access to money with having money. That credit card with a $10,000 limit didn't make you $10,000 richer. It made you potentially $10,000 poorer plus interest. That car loan didn't give you transportation. It gave you a depreciating liability and a monthly payment that will follow you for 5 years. That student loan didn't guarantee you a better life. It guaranteed you a payment plan that starts the moment you graduate, regardless of whether you found the job you thought you were borrowing for. I've watched people destroy their 20s and 30s paying for their late teens and early 20s. They borrowed for college, borrowed for a car, borrowed for furniture, borrowed for a wedding, borrowed for a house they couldn't afford, and now they're making 6 figures and living paycheck to paycheck because half their income services debt. They look successful. They have the degree, the job, the house, the car, but they're owned by banks and credit card companies, and they won't be free until they're 50 if they're lucky. This is normalized insanity. You're working 40, 50, 60 hours a week, and the majority of that work isn't funding your life, it's funding your past. You're on a hamster wheel where you work to pay off things you've already consumed, things that gave you a brief dopamine hit followed by years of financial obligation. The worst part? You think you're building something. You think you're being responsible because you're making your payments on time. But making payments on time just means you're a reliable servant to your debt. It doesn't mean you're winning. Here's the truth about leverage that nobody wants to tell you. Debt only works as leverage if what you're borrowing for produces more income than the debt costs. A mortgage on a rental property that generates positive cash flow, that's leverage. A business loan that funds expansion that returns more than the interest, that's leverage. A car loan so you can have a nicer car than you can afford, that's slavery with leather seats. Student loans for a degree with no job market, that's a bet you made with your future and you're losing. Credit card debt for restaurants and clothes and experiences, that's just stupidity with a monthly reminder. The wealthy use debt strategically to acquire assets. You're using debt habitually to acquire stuff and experiences, and then you're wondering why they're getting richer while you're stuck. Stop borrowing money to look like you're winning, and start keeping money so you can actually win. The interest you're paying could be the compound interest you're earning. The choice is yours, but only if you make it now before you drown in payments you rationalized as investments. You got a raise last year and you're broker now than you were before the raise. How is that possible? It's possible because you have a disease called lifestyle inflation, and it's terminal to wealth building. The symptoms are obvious. Once you know what to look for, you make more money and immediately your standards rise to consume it. You upgrade from the economy car to the mid-tier model. You move from the acceptable apartment to the nice one. You start eating at slightly better restaurants. You subscribe to 3 more streaming services. You buy the name brand instead of the generic. None of these decisions feel significant in the moment. Each one is perfectly justifiable, perfectly reasonable, something you deserve after working hard. But here's what actually happened. You got a 20% raise and you increased your expenses by 25%, and now you're more financially stressed than before despite making more money. This is the trap that keeps high earners broke and low earners who control spending wealthy. I know a teacher making $52,000 a year who will retire a millionaire, and I know a surgeon making $400,000 a year who has $18,000 in savings at age 45. The difference isn't income, it's the disease. The teacher lives on $40,000 and invests $12,000 annually. The surgeon lives on $380,000 and invests whatever's left over, which is usually nothing because there's always another expense, another upgrade, another thing that people at his income level are supposed to have. He has the big house in the right neighborhood, the luxury cars, the private school tuition, the country club membership, the expensive hobbies. He looks incredibly successful. He is incredibly trapped. One bad year, one lawsuit, one unexpected crisis, and his entire world collapses because his lifestyle requires his income to continue forever at the same level or higher. The teacher? She could lose her job tomorrow and survive for years on her savings while her investments keep growing. She has freedom. He has the appearance of success funded by golden handcuffs. This is what lifestyle inflation does. It scales your expenses to match or exceed your income, regardless of what that income is. You think the problem is that you don't make enough. The problem is that you spend everything you make plus a little more, and you do this at every income level. People making $30,000 think they'll be comfortable at $50,000. People making $50,000 think they'll be comfortable at $80,000. People making $80,000 think they'll be comfortable at $120,000. It never ends. The goalpost moves with your income because you're not actually trying to be comfortable. You're trying to keep up with the lifestyle that your new income level suggests you should have. You're comparing yourself to other people at your income, and they're all broke too. They're just broke with nicer stuff. The cure for lifestyle inflation is simple but not easy. When your income increases, your spending stays flat. That entire raise, it goes to investments, to debt payoff, to asset purchases, not to a nicer car, not to a bigger apartment, to building wealth. This is how you break free. This is how you turn income into assets instead of turning income into expenses that require more income. Financial freedom has a formula, and it's so simple that most people dismiss it as too obvious to work. Here it is. Spend less than you earn. Invest the difference consistently, and wait. That's it. That's the entire secret. But you're not doing it because simple doesn't feel sophisticated enough, and consistency doesn't feel exciting enough, and waiting feels impossible in a world designed to make you want everything right now. You're looking for the complicated strategy, the hidden trick, the investment secret that will make you rich quickly. There isn't one. Every person I've watched build real wealth did it the boring way. They earned money. They didn't spend all of it. They invested what they didn't spend, and they repeated this process for decades. No lottery tickets, no crypto moonshots, no get-rich-quick schemes, just the relentless, unglamorous discipline of living below their means while their assets compounded in the background. You don't want to hear this because it means you can't blame your income, your job, your circumstances. It means the only thing standing between you and wealth is your behavior, and behavior is hard to change. Let me give you the math that makes this real. If you can save and invest 20% of your income, just 20%, and you earn a reasonable 8% average return, you can retire in 37 years. Save 25%, 32 years. Save 30%, 28 years. Save 50%, you're done in 17 years. This is the formula. Your retirement date isn't determined by your age. It's determined by your savings rate. Every dollar you don't spend is a dollar working for your future freedom. Every dollar you do spend is a day you're adding to your working career. Right now, you're probably saving 0 to 10%. if you're saving anything at all, which means you're planning to work for 45 years or more. That's not a plan. That's a prison sentence you're imposing on yourself, one unnecessary purchase at a time. The people who retire early aren't the ones making the most money. They're the ones keeping the most money. They're the ones who figured out that a smaller life now means a bigger life later, and they chose freedom over stuff. But here's where everyone gets stuck. You know this formula. You've heard it before. You intellectually understand that spending less and investing more will make you wealthy eventually, yet you're not doing it. Why? Because knowing and doing are separated by a canyon of psychological warfare that your brain is losing every single day. Your brain wants comfort now. It wants status now. It wants to feel successful now. The formula requires you to delay all of that gratification and trust that future you will be grateful for the sacrifices present you is making. That's a hard sell when your coworker just bought a new car and your friend is posting vacation photos and you were eating leftovers again, while your investment account grows by amounts that feel meaningless in the moment. This is why most people never build wealth. Not because they can't understand the formula, but because they can execute it consistently when everything around them is screaming to spend, consume, upgrade, and keep up. The formula works. It's worked for millions of people, but it only works if you actually follow it, and following it requires you to become a different kind of person than you are right now. Your brain is wired to keep you poor, and until you understand this, you'll keep making the same financial mistakes while wondering why you can't get ahead. Evolution designed your brain for survival in a world of scarcity, where consuming resources immediately made sense because tomorrow wasn't guaranteed. But you're not living in that world anymore. You're living in a world of abundance where the threat isn't starvation. It's your own inability to delay gratification. Every marketing team, every advertiser, every credit card company knows exactly how your brain works, and they're exploiting those weaknesses every single day to separate you from your money. The first trap is present bias. Your brain values immediate rewards far more than future rewards, even when the future rewards are objectively larger. $1,000 today feels more real, more valuable, more compelling than $10,000 in 10 years. This is why you'll spend $50 on dinner without thinking twice, but investing that same $50 feels like a sacrifice. Your brain can't emotionally connect to your future self, so it treats future wealth as theoretical while treating present spending as necessary. The second trap is social comparison, and it's absolutely destroying your financial life. You're not comparing your situation to your actual needs or your personal goals. You're comparing yourself to everyone around you, especially the people doing slightly better than you. Your coworker gets a Tesla, and suddenly your perfectly functional car feels inadequate. Your friend renovates their kitchen, and now yours looks outdated. Your neighbor goes to Europe, and your weekend camping trip feels like settling. This comparison game is unwinnable because there will always be someone with more, someone doing better, someone living a lifestyle that makes yours look insufficient. And here's the cruelest part. You're comparing your reality to everyone else's highlight reel. That coworker with the Tesla, they're drowning in a car payment they can barely afford. That friend with the renovated kitchen, they put it on a home equity line of credit and added 5 years to their mortgage. That neighbor in Europe, they're financing it with credit cards. You're envying people who are deeper in debt than you are, and you going into debt yourself to keep up with their illusion of wealth. The third trap is mental accounting, where you treat money differently based on arbitrary categories you've created in your head. You'll agonize over saving $3 on groceries, but then spend $40 on drinks without hesitation, because that's entertainment money and somehow doesn't count the same way. You'll refuse to invest $200 a month because that feels like too much. But you'll spend $200 a month on subscriptions, coffee, and impulse purchases without noticing, because those expenses are fragmented and feel small individually. Your brain is lying to you about what money is important and what money doesn't matter, and this lie is costing you your financial future. All money matters. Every dollar you spend is a dollar that can't compound for your future. Every purchase is a choice between temporary satisfaction and permanent freedom. But your brain doesn't want to think that way because it's exhausting to be that conscious about every financial decision. So instead, you operate on autopilot, making the same suboptimal choices repeatedly while your wealth-building potential evaporates. Understanding these traps doesn't make them go away. Your brain will keep trying to sabotage you, but awareness gives you a fighting chance to override the programming and make decisions based on your goals instead of your impulses. You think you need a six-figure salary to build wealth, and that belief is the permission slip you're giving yourself to not start. Let me destroy that excuse right now. Wealth is built by behavior, not income. And some of the wealthiest people I know started with modest salaries and discipline that would make a monk look impulsive. The median household income in America is around $70,000. That's not rich. That's not comfortable in most cities. That's paycheck to paycheck territory for most people. But it's also enough to become a millionaire if you stop acting like you need permission from a bigger salary to start building assets. Here's how the math actually works. If you make $70,000 and you take home $52,000 after taxes and you live on $40,000 a year, which is tight but absolutely possible, you have $12,000 to invest annually. $12,000 invested at 8% average returns for 30 years becomes over $1.4 million. You just became a millionaire on a median income by doing one thing differently than everyone else. You chose to live below your means instead of at your means, but you don't want to live on $40,000 when you're making $52,000 because that requires sacrifice, and sacrifice feels like punishment. You want to enjoy your money now. You want to go out to eat, take vacations, buy the things that make life feel worth living. I understand that impulse. But here's what you're not understanding. The 40-year-old version of you who spent everything is going to hate the 25-year-old version of you who couldn't delay gratification for even a decade. That future version of yourself is going to be exhausted, trapped in a job they hate, unable to retire, looking at another 20 years of work, and they're going to wish desperately that present you had made different choices. You're not sacrificing your quality of life by living on less than you earn. You're sacrificing a few years of maximum consumption in exchange for decades of freedom. That's not a bad trade. That's the only trade that actually works. The people who can't make this trade are the ones who work until they die, and they spend their entire lives confused about why they never got ahead despite doing everything right. The specific tactics matter less than the mindset, but here are the tactics anyway. Automate your investing so the money disappears before you can spend it. Live in a cheaper place than you can afford and bank the difference. Drive a car that's paid off and reliable instead of impressive. Cook most of your meals at home. Cut subscriptions ruthlessly. If you're not using it weekly, you don't need it. Buy quality items that last instead of cheap items you'll replace. Avoid debt like it's a disease, because it is. Find free or cheap entertainment. Stop trying to impress people who don't care about you with things you can't afford. Every one of these decisions feels small and insignificant in the moment, but they compound into a lifestyle that costs 20 to 30% less than your peers while providing the same or better actual quality of life. That gap, that 20 to 30%, is your wealth-building machine. That's your retirement fund. That's your freedom money. You can find it at any income level if you're willing to be different than everyone around you. Most people aren't willing. They'd rather fit in and stay broke than stand out and get rich. The question is, which person are you? Willpower is a finite resource that depletes throughout the day. And if your wealth-building plan depends on having willpower at the end of a long workday to manually transfer money to savings or resist impulse purchases, you've already lost. I've watched thousands of people try to budget their way to wealth through sheer discipline, and I've watched 95% of them fail within 3 months because discipline is exhausting and life is designed to drain it from you. You need a system, not willpower. You need automation, not motivation. You need to build a financial life where the right decisions happen automatically and the wrong decisions require effort, because that's the only way this works long term. The wealthy don't have more discipline than you. They have better systems that make discipline unnecessary. They've engineered their financial lives so that building wealth is the path of least resistance and spending money requires jumping through hoops. You need to do the same thing, and you need to do it today, because every day you rely on willpower is another day you're going to fail. Here's how you build the system. First, decide on your savings rate, the percentage of your income that goes to investments before you touch anything else. 20% is good, 25% is better, 30% is excellent. Whatever number you choose, that money needs to disappear from your checking account the day your paycheck arrives. Set up automatic transfers to your investment accounts, your IRA, your brokerage account. The money leaves immediately before you can spend it, before you can rationalize why you need it this month. What's left over is your spending money. That's your budget. This is called paying yourself first, and it's the single most powerful wealth-building habit you can develop. Most people pay everyone else first, the landlord, the credit card companies, the utility companies, and then try to save whatever's left over, which is usually nothing. You're reversing that. You're paying your future self first, and everyone else gets what remains. One change will build more wealth than any investment strategy, any side hustle, any raise you might get. Second, make spending money require friction. Delete your saved credit card information from online stores. Unsubscribe from marketing emails. Avoid stores and websites where you impulse shop. Implement a 72-hour rule for any non-essential purchase over $50. If you still want it in 3 days, buy it. Use cash for discretionary spending so you can physically see money leaving your hands. These tiny barriers create just enough resistance that your impulsive brain has to slow down and your rational brain gets a chance to intervene. You're not trying to eliminate all spending. You're trying to eliminate mindless spending, the purchases you make because you're bored or stressed or sad, or because an algorithm showed you an ad at the right moment. Third, track your net worth monthly. Not your income, not your expenses, your net worth. What you own minus what you owe. This is the only number that matters, and watching it grow becomes addictive in the best possible way. When you see your net worth increase by $2,000 in a month because you invested aggressively and your assets appreciated, that hits the same dopamine receptors as buying something new, except this feeling lasts and compounds. You're replacing the addiction to spending with an addiction to building, and that replacement is what separates people who escape the income treadmill from people who run on it until they collapse. Build the system. Trust the system. Let the system make you wealthy while you focus on living your life. Every dollar you spend is a vote for the kind of life you're going to live. And right now you're voting for appearance over freedom without realizing that these two things are almost always in direct opposition. You cannot look wealthy and be wealthy at the same time unless you're actually rich, and you're not rich. You're making a salary that disappears every month into lifestyle expenses that signal success to people whose opinions don't matter. This is the final choice you have to make, the choice that determines whether you spend your entire life working or whether you buy back your time while you're still young enough to enjoy it. Do you want to look successful or do you want to be free? Do you want the nice car and the impressive apartment and the designer clothes, or do you want to own assets that generate income while you sleep? You can't have both. Not at your income level. Not for decades. The math doesn't work. The people who look rich at 30 are broke at 60%. The people who look middle class at 30% are financially independent at 50%. Choose. I've been watching this choice play out for decades, and the pattern never changes. Two people start at the same company making the same salary. One person buys the lifestyle that salary suggests they should have. The nice car, the trendy apartment, the frequent vacations, the designer wardrobe. They look successful. They get compliments. They feel like they've made it. The other person drives a 10-year-old Honda, lives with roommates longer than they need to, takes modest vacations, shops at outlet stores, and quietly invests 40% of their income. They look like they're struggling. They look like they haven't figured it out yet. Fast forward 15 years. The first person is still working the same job or a similar one, still stressed about money, still living paycheck to paycheck despite making six figures now, completely dependent on their job continuing forever because they have no assets and substantial debt. The second person just gave notice because their investment portfolio generates enough passive income to cover their expenses. They're 38 years old and they never have to work again unless they want to. Same starting point, different choices, different lives. Here's what nobody tells you when you're young and excited about finally making real money. The window for building wealth closes faster than you think. You have maybe 20 years of high energy, low responsibility, and compounding time where aggressive saving can change your entire life trajectory. Most people waste this window trying to look successful, and then they spend the next 30 years trapped because they missed their opportunity to build assets when it mattered most. You're in that window right now, and you're wasting it on car payments and rent in expensive neighborhoods and restaurants and trips and stuff that will be forgotten or worthless in 5 years. Or you're making the other choice, the unsexy choice, the choice your friends won't understand, the choice that looks like you're being cheap or missing out on life. You're living below your means. You're investing aggressively. You're building a portfolio of assets that will eventually generate more income than your job does. You're buying your freedom while everyone else is buying their chains. In 10 years, in 20 years, you'll be the one who doesn't have to check their bank account before making a purchase. You'll be the one who can walk away from a bad job because you don't need the money. You'll be the one who travels when you want, works on what interests you, and spends time how you choose because your assets are working for you instead of you working for assets you don't own. That's the prize. That's what you're trading the fancy car for. That's what you're trading the impressive apartment for. Freedom, actual freedom, not the appearance of success, but the reality of choice. Stop chasing income. Start building assets that pay you. Make the choice. Live with the choice. Let the choice compound until the life you actually want becomes inevitable.